What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to On the Perf Podcast, brought to you, as always, by Atlas Gunworks. And I got to say, folks, I'm sad panda once again because I'm going to have to shoot USPSA Multi-Gun Nationals without an Atlas. The loaner had to go back. The new one is on the way. My Apollo, not the loaner Apollo. My Apollo is on the way. Will not be here in time for Nationals, but
if only you knew somebody there that would have one.
Yeah, if only that person was right-handed. And but we're going to do what we can do. The Apollo will be here in time for some of the fall matches, so I'm very excited for that. But before we get on to our topic here, Mr. Maxwell, would you like to bring us in with some sweet, sweet Gary of the Day?
All right, Gary of the Day is the guy who asks a question at the part of the stage briefing where they ask for questions that was answered in the stage briefing. Example. It starts out, there are 4 rifle targets, blah, 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 blah. How many rifle targets are there? Come on, man.
To be fair, clarification is okay.
Clarification's fine. Oh, yeah. Real questions are fine. But, like,
yep.
I think, gotta be careful using real names. I'm pretty sure Morgan Lionheart, one time I was squatted with her or someone like her. And a preteen chick, preteen, would not pay attention to the stage briefing and then would have 5 questions immediately after the stage briefing that were basic information outlined in the stage briefing.
Yeah, that's less than cool.
And I asked her, I was like, why don't you just listen to the stage briefing? She's like, oh, I don't do that. I was like, oh. All right, well.
What? Okay.
You are the Gary of the Day.
Yeah, these are the rules of the game you're about to play. You should listen to those rules. Well, we have what might end up being a slightly shorter one, and by slightly shorter I mean under an hour. We'll see. That'd be nice chance. Because my dumbass pretty much scheduled myself right into a hole. Had a busy day today. I had to run out to Shields and get a couple cases of AA, so I could have some sent off to National, so I have ammo to shoot when I get there. And then I got to swing by the armory and pick up my Surefire suppressor because the paperwork came in. So pretty stoked on that. And now I need to do a little dry fire because I haven't shot a gun in 2 weeks. And I have a work thing that I messed up, so I'm going to spend a couple hours working on that tonight. And at some point, I really need to mow my lawn because I think I'm bringing down property value. So we'll see.
Why don't you just pay the kid $50 again?
That kid moved on to bigger and brighter things.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. But that was a one and done. He decided he didn't like that anymore. I hope it was a good lesson and it didn't just I don't know, turn him into a YouTube influencer or something. But we have a listener question today, and this is an interesting one. That this is one of those ones that you can go pretty light on it and give the whimsical off the cuff answer, or it's one that you can go real deep on. I'm guessing we're going to do the latter because that's how we roll. So, our question for the day. I have another podcast, or I have another question. Yes, I'm crushing language today. We're going to start off. I have another question for your next listener question episode. Well, we're not doing a listener question episode, but we are doing an episode on your question. How do you bounce back after having a bad stage at a match? I recently experienced this at a local PCSL match where I got completely smoked during the second stage of the day. I'm thinking this affected my concentration for the rest of the match, and I ended up having the worst match I've had in a while. Maxwell, would you know anything about having the worst match you've ever had?
It still hurts.
Just looking for tips on how to stay locked in and not let one bad stage ruin your match. This is a great question because this is such a common thing, and it is a thing that has a bigger impact on more people's matches than I think more people really understand. and those who do understand how big of an impact it has on their match don't know how to deal with it. This is also something that plagues almost everybody for the entirety of their shooting career to some degree.
Yeah.
So
I think it's also interesting because it scales too. Like,
yes.
I'll watch dudes go through this on a Tuesday night where there's only 3 stages, and I'll see, obviously at big matches you'll have it, but also like that's one of the good things about being active at the local level or at the club level is like you get practicing, because every one of these scars like builds. And so if you get to a big match and you haven't learned how to handle it at a small match, like it just magnifies and it just tailspins even more.
Yeah. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And this is a thing that for me personally, I think it like my reaction to a really big stage is kind of the totality of circumstances going on at the time. So if there's other stuff going on that is impacting me negatively, having a bad stage will impact me worse than if everything's like, kind of going great and I just have a little slip up. Mm-hmm. Where I'm at in the match, how early in the match it is, how late in the day it is, mm-hmm. if I'm hangry at that point, the reason for having a bad stage, sometimes it's like it's something just totally out of your control. Sometimes that makes it better. Sometimes that makes it worse. Kind of depends on your mindset and what's going on. There's no such thing as like one piece of advice for this, but like, let's just start with, you just tanked a stage, like absolute train wreck. What's kind of your first reaction to that? How do you start dealing with it?
Well, I mean, last week we talked about Factory Gun Nationals, and this is part of the reason we're doing this episode because it's pretty fresh in my mind, right? So right off the rip, like you said, I had an ammo issue that's going on in the background. There's also some stuff going on in my personal life running in the background. And right off the rip, the first 3 stages of the day, I'd have to remember, it doesn't really matter, but some combination of the first 2 or 3 stages of the day, I basically get like 5 Charlies and 3 no-shoots. Like that is the opening run to Factory Gun Nationals. And that's a little bit beyond like the first stage is kind of like, first stage, like you want to come out ripping at the first stage, but you can kind of let the first stage go. But when it carried over into stage 2 and it carried over into stage 3, it started to be like, oh, I have a problem. And that's where I think it kind of initiated for me. And what's so frustrating about the way it turned out was I know the solution, and it still couldn't pull it out. But I think the biggest thing in our sport is that every stage is a new opportunity. One stage does not influence the other. So no matter how bad you tanked the last stage, that has zero effect on how you tank or how you shoot the next stage.
That's some Freudian slip shit right there.
Unless you carry it with you. So like the next stage doesn't know how the last stage went. And especially at bigger matches, you're moving to a completely different RO crew. These people probably don't even know you a lot of the times, or maybe if they do or whatnot. But like every stage is a fresh chance. That's some of where like we talk about like looking at interim results like that. Nothing really good can come from looking at interim results unless you were at the top level playing 4D chess. Nothing you can see on the score sheet about the stages that have happened will give you any direction on how the stages that are coming should be shot. You should shoot them as fast and accurately as you can. And how you shot the other stages doesn't change the fact that you should shoot these as fast and accurately as you can. That is the piece of it. It's like the more you let it manifest itself, that's what I live by. Like what you think about, write about, and talk about is what you're gonna get. So if you keep reliving that, right, like your conscious brain accepts things vividly imagined as reality, even for a moment in time, which is why the entertainment industry works. All right, that's why movies are enchanting, because they vividly portray something so that you can kind of momentarily accept it as reality, and that's a break from your reality. All right. The opposite works for tanking a stage. The more you let that live in your head, the more it manifests itself, and the more it's front of brain when you start essentially collecting points again. And if it's on the front of your brain, it's more likely to happen again.
Yeah. So 2 things on what you just said. Thing number 1, it doesn't do you any good to really know results. I've been shooting since 2013. I've been doing it well since 2016. I have, in all of that time and all the matches that I've shot, I shoot on average somewhere between 7 and 10 majors a year. I have had exactly 1 stage ever where my position in the match influenced how I shot a stage in all that time. I was shooting, get your drinks ready, hard as hell. I was second place to Tim Yackley going into my very last stage. Third place, I don't remember who it was, but they were reasonably close behind me. Like, not close enough that they could catch me if I just put one down, but close enough that if I really messed up, that they could close the gap if I gave up like 40 points on a stage or something. And it was the Sluggy Bear stage, so 250-yard slug shot on a bear. And that decision was like, okay, if I don't hit Sluggy Bear and I shoot the rest of the stage well, my time's going to be about this, which means my score is going to be about this. My points are going to be about this, which means that I can miss Sluggy Bear entirely and still get third place. So I was basically like, I'm going to put this many slugs in the gun. I'm going to take this many shots at it. That's how many I get. I'm not going to load it up and keep going and dig myself a hole deep enough that third place can catch me. In all of that time, that's the only time that where I was at in a match actually influenced how I shot a stage. I've kind of gone back and forth at looking at scores. Mostly I look at scores just because I'm bored. Because, you know, like you're just sitting in a hotel room at night and you're like, cleaned all my guns, watched a bunch of YouTube, and you're just kind of like looking for something to like entertain your mind. And I've gone back to just not looking because I think only bad things can really come from it, unless you just happen to be absolutely crushing everybody there. And you're like, yep, I'm awesome, going to bed. But if that's the case, you probably know that anyways.
Yeah.
But you also need to be comfortable for like accidentally finding out how you're doing and not having it just like explode your brain. Because I've also had stretches where I was like really trying hard not to look at scores, then I'd have somebody come up and be like, holy shit, dude, you're winning. You're like just barely winning. And I'm like, dude, I do not want to know that. Like this is not valuable information. All this is going to do is cause more stress. But the other thing that my esteemed co-host here pointed out was the way you have to shoot the stages. So you have to shoot every single stage as if you're shooting well. Like you need to shoot every single stage to the best of your ability. And I think maybe one of the best examples of this I've ever seen was those old Hot Shots, the Hot Shots series it's all on Netflix right now. I don't know what it initially aired on. But there was a Steel Challenge episode or series of episodes or whatever. And Max Michel steps up to the line and he's shooting whatever Steel Challenge stage it was and bombs the first run. So the way that Steel Challenge works is you get 5 goes at each stage and they throw out your worst one. And then the other 4 added together are your time. And so he pulls out the gun and has like 3 misses on the first plate. And, you know, in Steel Challenge is all about the transitions, right? So you're transitioning hard off of every single plate and it has to come up to the same plate like 3 or 4 times, you know, on something that should be like a 1.2 second run, has like a 5 or a 6 second run, whatever it was. I don't remember the details, but absolutely catastrophically bad run. And then and, kind of like, reloads to another mag, drops the mag on the ground, big long exhale, looks at the sky, holds his gun out, looks at the sights, puts it away, looks at the sky again, redraws his gun, looks at the sights, puts it away, nods his head. Are you ready? Stand by. Beep. World record run. Next one. Beep. World record run. Next one. Beep. World record run. And it's like, what I just did doesn't matter. I know what I can do, and more importantly, I know what I have to do to win this match. He's not going to lay up on the second one to ease into the third one, because in that game, a tenth of a second is like 5 freaking places. So that's the thing. It's like you have to shoot every single stage like it's the only stage in the match. Whether you're winning the match, you're losing the match, you're beating your buddy, you're not beating your buddy, whatever the case may be. And this also applies to the first stage of the match. Like, one thing that people do really badly is they will kind of ease in. They're like, oh, I'm just gonna kind of lay up on this first one and kind of get going because it's cold and the wind's blowing and I can't see the targets well and I haven't shot in a few days and my hands are numb and I didn't sleep well last night or whatever. And at the high level, like you can't do that. Like, you have to shoot every single stage full send. And this is the case whether it's the first stage in a match and you haven't shot a gun in 2 weeks, or if you just absolutely train wrecked the stage before it. The worst thing you can do, well, maybe not the worst thing, but one of the worst things you can do is go intentionally shoot 80% of your ability because you just had a bad stage and you kind of like need a little on-ramp to Performanceville on the other side of that thing. Like, you need to go shoot that next stage like you mean it.
Yeah, I think also when you have a bad stage, you have to diagnose if it's something within your control or out of your control. So you have to somehow diagnose, is it match karma that just did me dirty, like Adam's spinner story where the wind was just blowing and there ain't no way he's going to shoot that spinner over no matter what. All right. It doesn't change how badly that affected his score, but there is absolutely nothing you can do about the weather conditions in St. George, Utah on that day, on that stage. You just kind of have to take it on the chin and deal with it. Or is it something like, some of what I faced, all right? So I shot all those mics, shot those no shoots, and that is not like me. The weekend before, I shot an extremely clean and aggressive for me single stack match in Wisconsin with the same gear, same gun, same ammo. What's going on? And so I went to, there actually happened to be a zero bay. Oh, turns out my zero was off, So in adjusting equipment, now it would have been great to catch that ahead of time, but midstream, it's like, okay, what caused those mics and those no-shoots was an equipment issue, and I've solved it now. Getting back on track, or, I was trying too hard for speed. I wasn't focusing on my vision, That's something that's in your control. Or, did your gun go bolt action? It's like, okay, well, were your mags dirty? Did you drop them on the ground? Did you unload them all the way before you loaded them again? Did you put partial mags in your mag pouches? You have to diagnose if it's something that was within your control or it's out of your control. And if it's something in your control, you need to actively go and fix that thing. And that's part that, if nothing else, that will reset your mental process and like, okay, I had a problem, but I fixed it now. Now I can keep shooting.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. So I'll give an example here from the High Desert Championship, which is the last match I shot, because I had 3 back-to-back pretty bad stages, and it was my whole second day. So day 2 was 3 stages. For those USPSA folks listening, this match had 9 stages and there was 27 minutes of shooting. So 3 stages of shooting is like 2 USPSA matches. So I shoot the first stage I'm doing well. And I didn't notice at the time, but I think I had won all 4 stages on the first day, or at least 3 of them. I think I won 3 of them. And I was like 90% on the fourth. So I had a very good first day. So I'm going into this like, yep. And I didn't know that. Like I just knew that I was shooting well, but I didn't know that I had won those stages. So I have quite a lead going into day 2. And then I shoot a pretty good first half of a stage. Run into the second half. There's like a shotgun trench thing. Slipped in the trench and fell down. Scooped a bunch of dirt into a mag. Shotgun mag, loaded that into my shotgun, and even AK and PKM based shotguns, if you put like a cup of dirt in there with your shell, they're not going to like it. It's going to take a minute till they're back to running. So pretty catastrophic malfunction on that stage. So I take my gun over, brush it out, clean it out the best I can, control what I can control. Go to the next stage. It turns out I didn't brush out or clean out my gun well enough, or I had forgotten to case gauge some ammo, or something happened. But I have, and at this point I'm still like, okay, that was a problem that happened. I'm still doing good. I'm still feeling fine. Go to the next stage. I have 3 individual shotgun malfunctions on 3 separate targets. All 3 of them happen to be activators for flying clays. So I don't get to shoot at 3 flying clays on the stage. So catastrophically bad result. And I was real salty. I was not in my good place. And, I don't throw a wobbler very often, but this was my one for the year, or my one of my 2 for the year, which you'll hear about in a second. So now I need to go clean that gun some more. Like whatever happened is still happening. So now I strip down the gun. I work on a whole bunch of stuff. I clean it. I shoot the next stage. Gun runs great. I get to the end. There's a dog house that you have to shoot over the top of it, and it turns out I can't see over the top of the dog house because I'm just too damn short. And so anyways, I work my way through that, and then I make a bad decision after I shoot over the doghouse and chew up a bunch of time there. I'm already pretty salty just starting this stage. Like I'm trying real hard to calm down before the stage even starts, and I shoot well. Like I actually kind of shoot well when I'm pissed off. Because I shoot super aggressively, but I've kind of learned to harness it a little bit. Like it sucks that like it takes the fun out of it because I shoot the same amount of good when I'm really having fun and I'm shooting well than when I'm super pissed off because I'm not shooting well. I actually like both of those things can kind of lead to the same place. And I think it's partly because I feel very efficiently on self-hatred. But so I'm shooting this stage very well. I get to the end. I can't see over the doghouse. I work through that. And then I go down, and you had to shoot like this weird hunched over prone position. It was like a seated, like a super low seated, like a position that you would shoot prone, but I would shoot seated. It's like, shin level. And you had to shoot it left-handed because Parma. And I just had the scope cranked down too much, and the eye box was too small, and I couldn't make my right eye close. Like most of the time I can close that eye independently of my left eye. Like people can blink on either side. Most of the time I can do that. Sometimes I just can't, and I don't really know why. This was one of those times when I couldn't. So I had like this small eye box that I was dealing with in a position I don't normally shoot in, had too much magnification, which was causing most of those problems, and I couldn't make my right eye close. It was just a very frustrating situation and took a lot of time, which led to a really catastrophically bad finish. And for the first time in maybe ever, I think for the first time ever, I threw a mag while walking back to the van. I don't think I've ever actually thrown a mag, and I threw a mag for the first time ever. PMag, not an Atlas mag. Those are too expensive to throw. So, hucked the mag, go over, toss my stuff in the back of the van, cursing a bunch under my breath. I'm trying not to have like a big old blow up. buddy Randy walks over, grabs my mag, brings it to me, gives me a pat on the back, tells me it's going to be okay. And this was my last stage of the day. So for the next, I don't have to get my shit back together because I don't have another stage to shoot. So I'm kind of like letting this go in my head a little bit. And I'm, walking, post Parma 3-gun stage, there's just gear everywhere and mags everywhere. And I'm trying to get all my stuff back. So every time I walk back to the van, I would aggressively place another mag in the back or pistol or rifle or whatever, cuss at myself a bunch under my breath, tell myself what an asshole I am, all those things. So this goes on for, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, something like that. Walk out, gather up some more stuff, walk back, throw some things, cuss under my breath. Turns out my hat cam was on this entire time. So I ended up with like a 15-minute POV video of me like throwing a wobbler. And so I was like, when I was like looking at his match footage after the day, I saw that and I like paused it because I knew what had happened. And I'm like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to watch this once. You're going to watch this whole thing. You're going to listen to what an asshole you were. You're going to internalize all of this. You're going to remember what this looked like. And then you're going to delete it. That's what we're going to do. So I sat down. I watched the 15-minute video. By the way, hat cam video when you're throwing mags is quite funny because you can't see an arm. So just every once in a while, a mag just comes shooting out of nowhere. So it was actually like kind of comical. But so so I sat down and I watched the entire video and I was like, okay, yep, you were a real asshole there. That was not sweet. And trimmed it and deleted the rest of it and internalized, what all of that had gotten me, which is exactly 0. And then, kind of got my shit together that night, cleaned all the guns up really good so nothing would have a problem. Went and shot the next stage in the morning, did pretty good. Went and shot the last stage of the day, had a stage win by like 20% or something. I think I won that stage by 30 seconds. And yeah, so it was, it took me all afternoon to decompress from 3 catastrophic stages back to the point where I was putting down like high 90s and stage wins again. But it's really an unfortunate thing, like the way all of this goes, because the more you do this sport, the more you put into the sport, the more you expect out of yourself. It hurts more when you fuck up, not less. Like it gets worse.
Little things hurt more than big things at the beginner level.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're in your first year and you do like the dumbest shit you can imagine, shy of getting DQ'd, that hurts at like a 7. And then when you do a little thing that most other people don't even see happen, but you know what it was and what it costs you, that hurts at like a 9 when you get good enough. And then when you have a catastrophic problem that you're like, well, there goes a whole match. Like that's like sometimes you have that thing that is an unrecoverable thing. But here's the deal, like the match before that out in South Carolina, on the first stage, my dumbass mixed up my 2 rifle mags and I shot the long range out to 500 yards with my 55 grain hoser stuff that my rifle's, basically not really zeroed for. So catastrophic problem on the very first stage of the match. But had a stage win on the next stage, shot pretty good on the next stage, shot pretty good on the next stage, had some little hiccups here and there. Turns out basically everybody in the top 5 had a catastrophic problem somewhere. Daniel forgot to shoot at 3 targets. James had another problem on that same stage. Like everybody had something. And even with what normally would be a match ending, you're no longer in the top 10 level problem, that ended up being a second place finish by like 0.5%. So, like Jerry says, like you don't keep digging because you never know what kind of hole the other guy's digging. Like, whatever's going, and that's kind of the beauty of 3-gun is that, like, perfection isn't a thing. Like, I don't think I've ever walked off of a big 3-gun stage and been like, nailed it. Like, that was perfect. Like, even if you're stoked, even if you knew, like, that went really well, that's definitely a stage win. I put some points into everybody. I never feel like it's perfect or anywhere close to it. Like, I'm like, that was pretty good. But I feel like any stage, I'm like, if you let me go back and shoot it again right now, I'll do better. Because I can think of 4 things that I, should have done better. So always how it goes.
Oh yeah, and like with my performance this time at this match, like kind of that no perfection thing. Like I think if you go up to any shooter, almost like, hey man, how'd your match go? And they're like, a lot of times. And so like when people are now asking me about the match last weekend, I have to be like, no, but seriously, like. I'm not normally this guy, but like
it wasn't kind of shitty. It was for real shitty. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and I've tried pretty hard in the last few years to not be that guy anymore, especially like if you get to a level, if you rise up in the sport, at some point somebody is going to be trying to beat you. Somebody lower on the list is trying to beat you. And so if you're like, yeah, it was a shitty match or whatever, blah blah blah, it's like, well, if that person beats you, you kind of like are degrading them a little bit.
Yeah, you're dragging them down. You're taking away their accomplishment.
But like to give you an idea, like Adam or Riser told the story about Surefire that one year when I got DQ'd, and like I didn't want to tell anybody the story. Like I didn't want people to ask me how my match was because I just didn't want to bring them down. Like that's how I felt about this match. I'm getting better. But I also I kind of touched on like when Riser was telling that story about the hat cam and kind of having his hissy fit after that stage there from that catastrophic thing. It's a very elaborate story. I've felt that way recently over like one mic at a stage. Like you're crushing a shotgun match, or you're crushing a pistol match or something, and all of a sudden, boom, the one that like will just tip you off the top. So yep. like he said, the higher you get, the smaller stuff stings you more. When you were really young, like when you were a little kid, you could mess up all kinds of stuff. It's like, you'll do better next time. Like when you're an adult, it's kind of like, oh no, you're kind of supposed to have your shit together. Well, same thing in shooting sports. Like the higher you get, like it's little technicalities that get you. Like in USPSA, really, I mean, if you're shooting A class or M class, a delta on an open target is basically an unscored error. Like, yeah, you didn't get a penalty, but like in the world of like, hey, you're trying to do well at the match, that's basically an unscored error. Yeah, the little stuff stings you. And like, I'm trying to think of, and like I can be prompted to think of examples. But like, it's so easy to say, well, you just got to move on, man. You just got to move on. How do you do that? How do you do that? Because I could say you just got to move on, but like I have to the point now, if I were to think back on just this season, just within the last 3-4 months, I know I've had, bad stages. I'd be, other than the ones last weekend, and even those are getting kind of fuzzy at this point, I'd be really hard pressed to tell you a story about them. Unless somebody could put me in context and they're like, oh yeah, I could remember. But like, it happened. I decided a solution and I moved on from it. Like the longer you let it live, the more it's going to grow in your head. So like we tell you some of these stories for your education and growth and entertainment, but really that's the only reason we bring them up. Like it ain't helping us to talk some of this stuff out. We had to deal with it ourselves already. But I think
sure not. I just thought of like 8 more. So thanks for this, guys.
Yeah. Like like the very first shotgun qualifier last fall, I thought I was doing pretty decent. I thought I was doing pretty well. Pretty well for me. Some regrettable stuff, but that's going to happen. Like we said, there's no perfect. But I got to I think it was the last stage, or it was like the second to last stage of the day. And it was kind of a longer course, a medium to large course in a bay, shotguns. And I did it, had a plan, all that stuff, was on deck getting ready to go. And I had the right amount of ammo. But one of our rules, you always have one more reload than you need. And so, like, I had everything I needed. I had a little bit extra, and then just this little flag went off in my head. It's like, man, I should put on one more caddy and just have some extra ammo just in case. AMAX on deck. Oh, well, I don't have time for that now. Doing it live. Shot this stage, and there was a tricky longer steel target to knock over. Took a couple extra shots at it, and through the course of the stage, got to the end, and I was out of ammo. I don't remember if it was one failure to engage or two, but I got to the end without enough ammo. And that was like a totally preventable error, like I knew better. And just in the heat of the moment, it was just like, you know what? Nope, I got to shoot it clean anyway, so I'm going to do it good. And didn't leave myself a back door. That FTSA, like, I felt the weight of the world. Like I really wanted, at that point, beginning of the series, like I wanted to put on a good score. I'm trying to make this team. And it went from, this is going to be one of my good scores, and I'm on my way. Like that ticket to Greece was already booked, and I was there, man. And in one stage, it's like, man, this whole day is a throwaway, and I got to do better on the next one. It just like, it just sucks the wind out. Just one little mistake, and it didn't seem like much. But man, it just kind of sucks the wind out of you. And that's the moment where you have to be careful with yourself. You have to, if you let it define you and be like, oh, this happens to me every time. This is just how it goes. Talking to you, guy, in my DMs, you know who you are. All right. Oh, this is how it goes every time. I just can't hit that reload, or whatever it is. Okay. You're solidifying that it's like you for this to happen to you. It's normal for this to happen to you. And your mind is comfortable in normal. So where it gets dangerous to talk about this stuff, to let it manifest itself, to let it grow, if that becomes normal, when you do start doing well, really well, above average for you well, like within your skill but above normal for you, you won't be comfortable with that. That's where you hear stories of guys who like shoot a mic or shoot a no shoot on the first stage of a match because they're not comfortable shooting a clean match. They'll shoot a clean match and all of a sudden they'll just start being on eggshells towards the end, like, oh, I don't want to screw this up. Boom. They get their no shoot. Oh, yep. Every time it was bound to happen at some point. It's like me to have at least one no shoot at a match. Yeah, man. So what you have to be careful here is you can't normalize it. You have to, when something like this happens, you have to do the opposite. You have to tell yourself, and you have to talk to yourself. You don't have to use the Google voice, the googly voice, but you have to talk to yourself like you would talk to a child. All right, your internal monologue. Talk to a child, or you talk to an animal. All right, like, hey man, that sucked. But that's not normal. Something abnormal happened there. That's not like us. We know better. We can do better. You can't let that one thing define you. You have to get back to what you do well and what normal is like. And that's some of where when people talk about doing performance journals and things like that, and some of the Lanny Basham stuff, that's essentially what they're doing is they're creating a normalized process. They're normalizing doing well. And so they're trying to know that and establish that as a normal so that when abnormal happens, they can dismiss it. Even though there's no perfection in our sport, doing pretty well is normal. So this was an abnormality. And that's probably one of the more important things to understand when they're like, well, yeah, I need to move on, but how do I do that? Because this sucks. I'm so mad. You know, it's like, okay, be mad. You got 5 minutes. And then you got to let it go.
Yep. I think a big part of that comes from, well, there's two things going on. There's kind of the short-term thing and the long-term thing. So the long-term thing is not letting that become the way that you think of yourself as like the guy who always throws it away. Nothing, it sucks so bad to be the guy who almost pulls it off. I have so many goddamn second place finishes at major matches. Like, like my little, go me wall above my reloading bench in there is just littered with second place plaques. Like, it is so annoying. But this is the thing. I don't think of myself, I've talked about myself, as a second tier shooter and those kind of things, being realistic about, the amount of work that it takes to get to the top tier and the amount of work that I'm willing to put in and keep my life in balance. But those aren't the same thing. I don't think of myself as the guy who almost makes it and then screws it up. That's not how I think of myself at all. I think about myself as a guy who puts in a shitload of work and does very well. And when things happen, the first thing that I do is I try to figure out why that thing happened. So was it a mechanical issue? Is it a physical thing that I can go fix right now? If so, yeah, that's super frustrating, for the match because I lost those points and so on and so forth. But like, I can fix this and move on with the next stage, and this will not impact my stage. Is it a training thing that I can go home and I can address after the fact? Is it just a concentration thing, man? Sometimes like your head's just not in it, and you just decide that, I'm just going to kind of step up and phone it in here a little bit, and usually your results, look like you phoned it in. And then it is really a matter of the way that I bring myself back to it is stage visualization. So if I screw up a stage because I just didn't concentrate hard enough and I didn't pay attention to the correct things, and I was just kind of like going through the motions, which definitely does happen on these really, really big matches and these big days, I will focus on memorizing the next stage. So every single time somebody's shooting, when I'm not out there taping or reloading mags or whatever I'm doing, I'm just sitting there with my eyes closed, running through the next stage over and over and over and over and over. So by the time I get to the next stage, I have dozens upon dozens of visualizations of me running that stage perfectly that's going to help me execute that. So that's the thing that helps me get out of the funk. And it takes some self-control to go from I'm shitty, I'm stupid, I can't believe I did something like that, to like, okay, how can I actually, fix this and move forward at the rest of this match and do the best that I can do for the rest of this match, which might still be, getting to my goal, whatever that goal is. If the goal is make the top 5 or make the box or make the podium or the top 10 or beat my buddy or whatever it is, the point of all of this is to get back to that goal so you don't just keep digging your hole deeper and deeper, right? It's like you messed up that one thing. That's in the past. You need to concentrate on how to make things better in the future. So there is a self-control, like you just kind of have to do it part of this, which is I'm going to change my mindset from what just happened to what needs to happen on the next stage in order for that stage to be as good as it possibly can be. And I try to think about it. I try to phrase it in that way in my mind, where I try not to think about it like I need to move forward and think about that next stage to make sure that thing that I just did doesn't happen again. I'm trying not to think of it in that like negative term. Like, I don't want to shoot another miss. No, it's like, no, I want to shoot all alphas. Like there is a mindset difference there that if you're so what when early in like my free ride mountain biking time, I was learning how to ride skinnies. And so a skinny in freeride mountain biking is basically like a wood feature, usually fairly high off the ground. That's very narrow, usually measured in a few inches. And on some trails, you might be riding across a thing like weird stuff in the North Shore might have like literally a 2x4 turned on its end, and you ride across that with your mountain bike at a height where you super don't want to fall off. And I was talking to somebody about how to ride skinnies, and he's like, you just like get loose and look at the exit. And I'm like, yeah, but my tire's only as big as this thing. Like I need to look down and see if my tire's on. He's like, no. It's like, if you're still on the bike, your tire's on it. Where you need to go is at the end of that thing. So just look at the exit. Everything else will work out. If you look, oh, I don't want to fall off to that big stump on the left there. Guess where you're going to fall? You're for sure going to fall onto that stump on the left. Like, you just need to look at the exit, look where you want to go, don't look where you don't want to go. And I think the mental mindset in competition shooting is very much the same thing. It's like, okay, well, all that just happened. That sucks. What needs to happen on this next stage for me to do really well? Well, I need to mechanically fix this problem that I just had. So I'm going to go do that. Now what else needs to happen? Well, I need to memorize my long-range holds so I don't get all mixed up when I'm shooting at those 6 long-range targets out there. I need to memorize the rest of the stage plan. I need to preload my mags to make sure that they're ready. So it's like I find solace in the action. Like if you're just sitting there brooding, you're not fixing anything. But if you're stuffing mags, you're remembering stages, you're remembering dope, you're checking to make sure the batteries are still good in your red dot, whatever it is. Action that moves you forward is what gets you out of that thing. So that's where I usually try to go with it.
Yeah, and that's definitely why like having a process for executing a match is so important. Because when you're lost, that's how you find your way home. Right? So like if you're just winging it, you don't know when you get it, and when you don't get it, you don't know the difference. It's just kind of like drawn out of the hat. But like part of some of like the mental management stuff and the Zen or whatever you want to call it, is having something that's repeatable so you can initiate a sequence of things that result in performance that you want. And you have to go back to a place that is comfortable for you, and you know what right feels like. So Reiser kind of described some of for him how he's kind of functional on anger and self-degradation. To me, I have to get back to Tuesday night at USPSA League in Minnesota. Like SCAPSA Tuesday night when I was 27 years old, that's the best it ever was, man. Like it was relaxed. There was a shitty cheeseburger at the end of the deal, and like a can of Coke, and I was driving home, right? Like that relaxed environment of just 5 stages in the middle of the weeknight thing. Hey, everybody's here. Anybody who's seen the show, cheers. Like everybody knows your name. Like, yep, okay, we're here. You have to get to that. That's the place that I have to get for me, which is hard when you go to a major match because the atmosphere is completely different, especially if you go to a USPSA, like a handgun nationals. The vibe is completely different than a major 3-gun match. Like everybody is a lot more, not in a bad way serious, but they're a lot more locked in because the smaller stuff matters. And it's just a little bit different personality of a crowd. So like it doesn't feel like Sandlot baseball when you get there. And like when I rolled up to Cardinal this year, doing the appendix thing, doing the Constantine thing, I knew I was coming from behind. I knew I also didn't have to beat anybody to win it. So my goal was to see how close to the pace I could be while shooting concealed. Like I knew I was behind because there's people going to World Shoot and they're spun up on it right now. Like I'm not beating J. Lease Williams this year. Ain't no way. Some other year, maybe. Not this year. All right. So I went in there with kind of this goal and kind of a coming from behind mentality. That's not a comfortable place for me. When I really kind of buckled down, I solved my equipment issue, but I'm still getting mystery mics. It's because it was kind of in that some people, and here's a trap also, like, oh, I had an error. I screwed up stage. Screw it. I'm going to send it. All right. So like swinging, trying to punch above your weight class. Like if you're sending it into the unknowns, to the edge of your skill level or to the unknowns of your skill level, you're going to find some limitations. And that's kind of what happened for me when I was treating this different than the environment where I've been the most successful doing this kind of thing. I was trying to send it, and see what happened. What happened? I had mystery mics. All right, they were probably drag off like Charlie mics, in an array of 3 targets. Is probably what it was. Because even when I started bearing down on sights, like, oh, I need to call all my shots. I need to watch my sight picture a little more. Bam, 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 bam. Okay, good stage. Charlie Mike. Damn it. Another, like, where did that come from? And I would try to go back and think about it. I was like, well, I didn't see and or think about that target very much. I thought about the one before it and the one after it, but not the one in the middle. Like that kind of stuff. So you kind of have to establish where in your head your comfort zone is, and you need to try and have a repeatable system for replicating whatever that is on demand when you go to a bigger, more important event that you care about the result of.
Yeah. And the mindset thing is different for everybody. Like I shoot terribly at locals. I can't get in that right competitive mindset. Like I need that intensity to like really perform well. I shoot really terrible at locals. Maxwell, that's his happy place. So he wants everything to feel like a local in his mind. So he's nice and relaxed and he's shooting super well. So whatever your competitive drive is, you need to just learn how to recognize that and act accordingly so you can, produce the best that you can. The other thing here is I feel like the place when it's the hardest is when you're doing well and either you take a stage when you're already doing well and you slip, and then you're like, oh, I need to claw my way back up. It's really, really tempting, like Maxwell said, to send it, right? It's super tempting. Like, oh, I'm going to go for it on this stage. Man, the reason you're doing well is because you're executing your program efficiently. So if you try to, if you need to kind of like dance with the one that came with you. So if you find yourself in a really good spot in a match because of whatever you were doing, and then you have a little bit of a stumble, and then you try to do something totally different in order to gain ground, that is a recipe for disaster. So whatever your shooting style is, if that shooting style is paying off for you, keep executing on that shooting style. If you need a style change in order to make it to another level, that's a totally different conversation and something that needs to take place in practice and spread out over the course of, a season. That's not something that you can change mid-match. So if you're shooting well, you have a problem, you can't make that ground back up. It is gone. It is just gone. That's all there is to it. It's sort of like if you're so for anything hit factor scored, a little piece of math for everybody. If you're shooting a stage and you have a malfunction, a slip, a stumble, you miss a target and you have to come back, you do something that costs you a bunch of time. That time is gone. But what has happened is your hit factor for that stage has gone down, which means points have just become more important than time relative to how you were starting at the beginning of that stage. So people will have a mistake and they'll just shoot crazy for the rest of the stage trying to make up that time that's already lost. You can't get the time back. What you can do is shoot really good points for the rest of the stage. And I think a lot of people would be really surprised how little time it takes to shoot good points.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of practice with this, and the difference between me trying to shoot aggressive alphas and trying to just hang to anywhere on the paper as aggressively as I can is almost always less than half of a second in a stage, in a whole stage. That's the difference between I'm going to shoot A's and close C's and do it aggressively, or I'm just going to go totally berserk. Like, there's not actually a real pace change there. The change is a focus change. Like, what are you paying attention to? One of those, you're paying attention to sights and you're shooting as fast as your vision will allow you to shoot. The other one, you're paying attention to the trigger and you're just shooting fast, but you're not doing the aiming part. So I see this all the time. So like the mid stage come apart where, you know, you botched a reload, you have a standing reload, you have a double feed, you do the thing that costs you time, and then people shoot faster trying to make up the time, where the mathematical approach that is correct is to shoot better points in order to make sure that you don't lose points because of the way hit factor math works.
Yeah, what comes to mind there is, I think at Timmy's Northwoods match this spring, I got to the end of a stage, and this is one where it's his thing. He does a cash payout, and I think I could be in the cash at this point of the match. And got to the end of a stage, crushed it. Got to the end, I'm looking at a partial, and I see an alpha. I only see one alpha, and it's far enough away that I was like, I'm gonna bank on it. Like I thought like by the time I saw it and realized it, which was in my head, you know, in reality it was probably less than 0.4 of a second that I saw and decided, and I just didn't shoot it. But I mean, it was an alpha mic that those points hurt me quite a bit. So like in the temptation is always speed, but man, in hit factor, the points matter. Yeah, you got to have points before your fast time really matters. And then the other thing too, I think to address on this is, like, if you go into the competitor app at the end and you look at that stage that was catastrophic to you in whatever way, if you're realistic with yourself about what the error was and what a realistic time for you would be, I don't think it drops you as much as you think it does. Like, when I go back in and especially on this match, right? So I went back and I made every mic a Charlie. Not an alpha, just went back and made it a Charlie. All right? So all those shots landed. I really only moved up a couple places in my mind. It's not like I went from 69% to 95%. It did drop me. It did drop me places. I was not happy with where I was at. I would have probably felt better about where I ended up if I hadn't had those. But like at the end of the day, it didn't fundamentally, usually, now this past match being an example, but like in these other matches, like those shotgun matches I was talking about, when I go back and I fix those errors and I realistically change the time just a little bit, if I'm realistic about it, usually it flips me like one or two places. Rarely is it like, oh, I lost the whole match and I went from first to 10th. It usually, even though it feels catastrophic at the time, it doesn't hurt as bad as you think it does, and that's why it's important to do what Riser is saying and keep on track, because while you're probably disappointed how this happened, if you can get it back on the rails, it probably won't be as bad as you think.
Yeah. And it's interesting, the things that happen and how they impact you emotionally aren't proportional to how they impact you in the match.
Oh yeah.
So in that South Carolina match, I had that mistake on stage 1 where I I got my mags mixed up. So that's let's call that mistake number 1. Then there was a dueling tree issue that I made a video about. Dueling trees should never be in major matches, just as a reference. So there was that. There was the hood of the Suburban that I couldn't see over on the last stage. There was I made a bad choke selection on a double spinner. There was like, I think there was like 6 things in this match that if I went into practice score and I changed any single one of them, I would have won the match. Only one of those 6 things actually had a negative emotional impact on me, just because of the way the day was going and the way the stage was going and everything else. But in reality, that one of those 6 things, I was like, God, I'm so stupid. How did I mix up my mags? Like it kind of actually made me feel a little bit better because I just bombed the long range stage. And I'm like, wow, that's not like me. And then so realizing that I'd shot the wrong ammo, I'm like, okay, I can still shoot. I'm just an idiot. I can work with that.
Yeah.
This is a fixable problem here. So like in many ways that really like kind of like blunted the sharpness of that cut. But, all of those other things didn't really impact me emotionally because they were just another part of a otherwise huge stage with all kinds of crazy stuff going on. But the reality is any one of those 6 things, had I not done them, would have led to a match win instead of a second place finish. So just because you have a thing that impacts you emotionally doesn't mean that's the end of your match. Like the thing that impacted me emotionally was on the first stage. I had lots of other stuff that didn't impact me emotionally throughout the entire match that had just as big a consequence. But if I would have let that first stage carry into my second stage, carry into my third stage, and so on and so forth, like zero chance I would have been on the box. Like, super tight match. If I just kept racking up those problems, and then, it's like those individual things that happened were in the context of a stage that I was shooting quite well because I was shooting super aggressively. I was seeing my sights as doing all the thing, and then I'd have a problem. And I knew enough at the time not just to be like, yep, like that, that spinner didn't go well because I picked the wrong choke. Okay. If I see another shotgun spinner in this match, I'll act accordingly. I'll choke down more. And it's so weird, man. Like, emotions are so dumb. Like our entire body is just wired for caveman times and we don't live there anymore. And so sometimes, things that in any other context, or if it happened a stage later or a stage earlier or in a different match or whatever it was, it would, if it was 15 degrees cooler outside and you weren't hot and sweaty and kind of angry because you're dehydrated, then, sometimes things just hit you the wrong way and make you want to spiral. But have a process to get back. Like I said, for me, it's action. It's okay. I'm going to physically get all my gear ready for the next stage, whether that's fixing a mechanical problem that I just had or reloading my mags or whatever. I'm going to start memorizing my next stage. I'm going to, start really driving that into my plan. I'm going to go start, I'm going to go out and aggressively tape targets, and, like the moving around helps me kind of like get the blood flowing again and stuff, where I find if I like physically sit still after something like that happen, I actually get more depressed and in my head than if I keep moving and I stay active. Like it's the action that helps me personally move forward. So I try to pick actions that are going to help me do better on the next stage and on the stage after that. And I just try to put all of my focus in that direction. And, sometimes, like I said, by the time I get to the next stage, I'm still super pissed, but I can shoot pretty well super pissed as long as I've done all of the things that are going to allow me to shoot pretty well. So I can still shoot really well super pissed as long as I know what my holds are on a long range and I know the sequence I'm going to shoot and I know where my reloads are and all of my gear is running. So I if I can't do anything about the super pissed part, and in sometimes it's actually helpful for me, then I'm going to pour all of my effort into making sure that all of those other steps are in place. So when the timer does start on the next stage, I have everything that I need to go crush.
Yeah. And when I'm super down, one of the things that makes me feel better is shooting good. So like when I get to that next stage, I'm almost like ready to like, okay, let me at this one so I can get some medicine. up in here, and we can move past what just happened. So,
Yep, indeed. Yeah, so the short answer is, get over it, shoot better, move past it. It's super easy. Because, otherwise we would have sat here for an hour and talked about it if it wasn't easy.
yeah, but I mean, determine if it's in your control or out of your control. If it's out of your control, it's out of your control. If it's in your control, remedy that. Find a process that never happens to you again. Like a lot of the stuff, cleaning 2011 mags. How many people do you know are superstitious about cleaning 2011 mags if they touch the ground? Are they
all of them?
Are they really that sensitive that if they touch the ground, your gun's not going to work? All my Leos out there? No, they're not. But guess what? Most people have had an experience where a dirty mag did them dirty.
I had a bad experience.
Yeah, and they decided that is never going to happen to me again. And everyone who's like, oh, I don't have to clean my mags. Oh, it's a Glock. Even if it's a Glock, guess what, dude? You're on a collision course with disaster. And on that day, you will decide maybe that that's never going to happen to you again. And it's just a matter of identifying why that happened and establishing some kind of process so that you can straighten that thing back out and get the match back on the rails.
Indeed. All right. Well, I think we done did it. We solved it. We fixed it forever. Nobody's ever going to have a problem like this again because we just solved it.
There you go. It's just that easy.
Yeah. It's just that easy. Well, folks, keep your overlays handy. And if it does turn out that was a mic, accept your mic, hit approve, cuss at yourself under your breath. That's what I do. And move on. Finish up the match like you mean it.
Well, call for overlay. I always get that overlay. Yeah, always get that overlay.
Always get the overlay. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.